Okay, I haven't made a video in a while. Neither have I shaved. I got a head cold and I couldn't talk. I mean, I could not talk. See if I can talk now. I was reflecting on something. Actually, yesterday I was at a dentist office. I broke 2 teeth. In a couple of days, I had 2 teeth break. So I had to go to the dentist, get a bunch of root canals. So I'm laying in the dentist chair and I'm thinking about this. It's been a really interesting couple of weeks. Looking back, people talk about, I was a teenager in the 80s. I graduated from high school in 1985. And in the 80s, I didn't think they were that cool. I thought the 80s were like, Even in the 90s, I look back in the 80s and go, God, that was a weird time. And then in the 90s, I think I had a lot more fun. But still looking back, just thinking about the 90s, wasn't quite impressed with. Now I look back, I thought, man, the 80s were a blast. It was really a good time to be alive. I just didn't appreciate it at the time. In the 90s, were pretty good too. I just had a bad attitude about it, but I know I look at what I did in the late 80s and early 90s. I worked very hard, family business. Didn't always make really good money until the latter part, but always had money, this and that. But I was basically, I was a partier. I spent a lot of time in bars. And work hard all day out in the sun, then do my night job, and then after that, get off work 10:30. I go close a bar somewhere, get up the next day, do it again. And I enjoyed it at the time. And I probably did that for a good 7 or 8 years. A long time, a lot of money, a lot of time spent. And I look back on that, and although at the time I thought I was having a pretty good time, it was entertaining, I look back on that and I just see what an extreme waste it was. Luckily, I never got a DUI, didn't do anything too bad. But just, if you look at the risks that I was taking, if you look at the time spent and the money spent, that kind of behavior lifestyle, heck, I could have learned a language or took a class in something. I could have did a million things, invested that money in something else. A million things that would have drastically changed the 90s for me. So I look back on that, not with shame, but really with some kind of regret, a level of regret that, gosh, you really wasted that. Because see, now at 52, time is very precious for me. Not because I'm so old, but just my own energy levels and stuff. I can't do all the stuff I did before. The 24-hour day wasn't, when I was younger, the 24-hour day was not enough. Now it could be a 12-hour day. It's hard for me to work through all of it. I don't have that much energy for it. So that changes on you. But looking back on those 80s, latter part of the 80s after high school, I wasted a lot of time. I burned up a lot of time. And that I kind of wish I did something different. But I didn't have the mental maturity either to realize it. Then you fast forward into the 90s, and well, 90s were kind of the same thing, a little bit different. I did a little more, it was kind of the same thing. A lot of partying and all that. Then I look back in the since 2004, I think I've had livestock. I think that was 2004 when I started. Got into livestock. Now see, I could look back at the time spent on my partying days and say, yeah, that was a tremendous waste, and I regret some of it. I look back on the dozen years or so of me being involved with livestock and rescue dogs and all that. And I could look back on it the same way, saying, gee, the money and time you've spent was really a waste. Cattle, rescue dogs, the horses, and all this. It was not a profitable thing, but it was a waste of time. But the difference between the two things, the partying days, I really gained nothing from it. I can't take anything away from that experience saying, yeah, but I'm a little smarter because of this or this. Or that lifestyle taught me this or this. Really didn't teach me anything. But I look back over the years that I've been involved with animals, and I still look at it now. I see it as a waste of both time and money. And I'm not complaining, I'm just pointing it out. If I had to do it again, I would have not gotten that first dog, or the horse, or the cows, or any of that. I would have done it. Because I could have done other things with my money and my time that I think would have been far more profitable, both financially and mentally, physically, whatever. Would have been time better spent. Okay? But being involved with the animals as long as I've been, I've picked up a great deal of wisdom from it. It's, life and death, planning, budgeting, culling. I mean, culling animals, that's an art form. I mean, who to get rid of, and somebody you may not want to get rid of, but I got 2 cows out there right now, I've been with them a long time, but I've seen enough of their children to know she's always going to have these long-legged calves that are extremely difficult to put weight on. And I'm just not going to put up with that anymore. She's gone. There's 2 of them like that. They're both going to go. But culling cattle, when to buy, when to sell, when to be disciplined enough to go out and check on newborns, and the times you didn't because the ones you lost and all this kind of thing. I could take like I said, I look back at my all the years I've spent in livestock. If I had to do it over again, honestly, I would not have done it. No dogs, no livestock, no nothing. But prior to that, I had no animals. I think I had a bird one time. Some girlfriend had left a bird behind or something. Finally, I wised up one day, just left the cage open. And he did the right thing. But it was a waste of time. But I learned so much from the experience. Medical things, health things, things about grass, soil. And as far as the whole ecosystem of my place, the soil, the water, the grass, the forage that you create, the riparian aspects, keep the coyotes, don't keep the coyotes. I gotta do a video on that because I just shot a bunch of coyotes. Had to get rid of them. But typically I always kept the coyotes around because they control the squirrels and this, that, and the other thing. So it was the whole puzzle. Okay, so if I was ever to go into another piece of land again or something else, I have a chunk of wisdom that I could use that I might be able to do something positive with that piece of land. People come to me and say, hey, we're thinking about buying a horse. And I know just the questions to give them, the questions that they have to answer. Or we want to get into cattle or sheep or dogs or whatever. I say, well, let me tell you about the dark side of that. Let me tell you about the do's and don'ts. And then you decide if you want to continue in something like that. See? Party days, I get none of that. But if I had to do it over again, like in the 80s and 90s, I would have stayed out of the bars, not do all the drinking and partying. And if I had to do it again, as far as I said, from the so I didn't get to cattle till the 2000s, but if I had to do that whole decade change again, if I was making a decision, I would not have done it. Yeah, I would have missed out on the wisdom that I gained from it, but and not guaranteeing that I would have done something smarter with the money or the time. But I would not have done it again. And I'm not saying that to keep I'm not saying this that other people should avoid the animals or livestock or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. To each their own. But if I had to do it again, no bars, no cattle. But I do appreciate the wisdom I picked up from the cattle. Anyhow, love you, God bless.